Today, we are going to be learning about the four factors of World War I. We're going to remember these factors as MINA, M-I-N-A, an acronym for the four factors. Sometimes you'll see them identified as MAIN, M-A-I-N. However, I choose to teach them in the order in which they occurred within the countries. The first factor is militarism. Militarism refers to the policy of building up one's armed forces to prepare for war. In other words, let's build up the military and make ourselves look forceful. There were two primary reasons for a country's militarism. The first was to protect trade. Countries wanted to ensure that they would have markets in which to sell their goods. Militaries that were strong enough to protect ships abroad would be able to deter other countries from capturing their markets. By building up a military, it also served as a deterrence for other countries to not bother them. As a result, it increased tensions between countries, as one country felt it needed to build up their forces in order to compete with another country's forces. When countries militarized, they did so with a purpose. Besides protecting foreign trade, there was a concept in the 1800s known as imperialism. Imperialism refers to the takeover of territories by larger countries. Imperialism was well recognized between the period of 1870 through 1914. Many European powers began carving up areas in Asia and Africa. Most imperialism was caused by the need for raw materials and new markets for trade. Raw materials consisted of resources needed in technology and production of new goods. The markets were for countries to earn money. When we think of these put together, we can take a look at Africa. Throughout 1880 through 1913, Africa, previously referred to as the Dark Continent, had been taken over by many European countries, as you can see here on this map. The theory was that if a country had more land, it would give them more money because they would be able to produce more goods. With the production of more goods, they would be able to sell more, again contributing to the money of a country. That money would then turn into power with the buildup of the military. Land equals money. Money equals power. That's the key to understanding imperialism. The next factor was nationalism. Nationalism refers to pride and devotion to one's country. We typically think of this as being a very positive attribute, and it is, because it increases patriotism within the country and unity of the population. However, there is a negative side to nationalism. It can promote blind trust. We'll talk about this negative aspect when we get to World War II. The last feature is alliances. Alliances were created when nations were looking for protection. As countries began to build up their militaries, if you see a stronger country, you would want to ally yourself with them so that you would have protection. Europe became divided into two groups during the early 1900s. The first group was the Triple Alliance. This was made up of Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire. These powers became known as the Central Powers during World War I. The second group was known as the Triple Entente. The Triple Entente was made up of Great Britain, France, and Russia. During World War I, these countries will be referred to as the Allied Powers.
While the spirit of nationalism flourished across Europe, Many countries were building their global empires. Great Britain and Germany were colonizing Africa and the Middle East in a frenzy of imperialism. France and Germany were now rivals at home and abroad as they clashed over control of Morocco. Russia turned its attention to Europe as she sought control over the Serbs. The contest for international trade, resources, and land soon resulted in a buildup of military strength. The British, Germans, French, Italians, Japanese, and Americans began an arms race, stockpiling weapons, recruiting armies, and launching battleships to protect their interests at home and abroad. As each country amassed countless weapons and beefed up their army and navies, they saw the wisdom of agreeing to military alliances, mutual treaties of assistance that would commit each nation to support one another should they be attacked. By 1914, there were two major defense alliances. The Triple Entente, later called the Allies, consisted of France, Great Britain, and Russia, although Russia had a separate treaty with Serbia. The other, the Triple Alliance, later called the Central Powers, included Germany, Austria-Hungary, the Ottoman Empire, and Italy. Italy would later join the Allies. For a little while, these military alliances served as a type of checks and balances system, with each nation reluctant to upset the balance of power. But despite these alliances, war soon erupted.
That one event that was mentioned happened to be the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The assassination occurred in Sarajevo, an area of Bosnia that had recently been taken over by Austria-Hungary. The first attempt on the Archduke's life was when a bomb was hurled at his caravan moving down the street. The bomb missed the second car carrying the Archduke and his wife. On their return trip, a lone gunman by the name of Gavrilo Princip, who was a Bosnian trained by a Serbian terrorist group known as the Black Hand, shot both the Archduke and his wife while in the car. This event would trigger a series of alliances to go into action. Austria-Hungary declared war on Serbia. Serbia was blamed for the assassination since they had trained the Bosnians who were unhappy by Austria-Hungary's takeover. Serbia had an alliance with Russia. Russia came to Serbia's aid when Austria-Hungary began to invade Serbia. When Russia joined the war, so did Germany. Germany responded to Russia's involvement by supporting Austria-Hungary. When Germany came in, France activated its alliance with Russia and declared war on Germany. Germany was going to invade Belgium to get into France, which activated the third part of the alliance. Great Britain and Belgium joined in the fight against Germany. Eventually, more countries would join, which started World War I.